Hello YouTube, this is IceHeart543. Today I'm going to be talking to you about the Fallout universe. This is an overview of everything, so I will not be talking about each game individually yet. This is just basically talking about the background story of Fallout and how everything came to be. So the whole idea of Fallout involves a United States alternate history scenario which branches off from reality following World War II. The USA has achieved the technological aspirations of the early atomic age, which basically means they've started using nuclear to its full force, while they're still locked in the 1950s. So basically at that time, they're still wearing the clothes and they're still using the regular technology. So computers are still 1950s computers and telephones are still 1950s telephones. But other things have progressed at a much better or quicker rate. If you played Fallout, you probably noticed this, whereas you have laser weapons, and yet the computers are ridiculously old. Thus, in this alternative golden age, as they've called it, is a mix between a 1950s society and the atomic age technology, in which the advanced robots, nuclear-powered cars, directed energy weapons, which are guns that don't use bullets but use energy instead, such as laser and plasma rifles, and other futuristic technologies are seen alongside 1950s era's computers, telephones, and typewriters. So basically, during this time, the federal government organized the states into 13 commonwealths, or republics, basically 13 sections that will take care of themselves, to promote economic stability. But this only divides the USA as they put their own ambitions before that of the nation. The tensions start to rise over the next century due to increasing energy crisis caused by the depletion of petroleum reserves, leading to the resource wars, as they're called. A series of events over the next few decades, which include the Europe-Middle East War, the disbanding of the United Nations, the U.S. annexion of Canada, and a Chinese invasion and military occupation of Alaska. These are eventually brought to like a crescendo in the 2077 Great War, cataclysmic, a huge nuclear exchange. That war lasted 2 hours and was the most devastating war in all of human history. And that is how Fallout came to be post-apocalyptic. So, if that was the biggest disaster ever happened to mankind, how did anyone even survive? Well, having foreseen this outcome decades earlier, the US government had begun a nationwide project called Project Safe House, air quotes, in 2054, so about 23 years before the bombs actually fell, to build fallout shelters known as vaults, which would officially house privileged segments of the population within. Basically, military personnel, anyone who could pay the money, basically. So the rich would get to survive. In reality, and unknown to most of its inhabitants, a large number were actually built for human subject research. Each was built to have test something in some way, ranging from overpopulation of the vault to deliberate radioactive contamination. They're pumping rads into these people. The vaults were designed by the government's contractor Vault-Tec. That's a very clever name. As public shelters financed by the government. Again, with each able to support up to 1,000 people. Since each vault is self-sufficient, it could sustain its inhabitants indefinitely. It recycles water. I'm not sure how it creates its own food, but somehow it does. So basically what it's saying is that you survive as long as your lifespan allows you to, if you're in a vault, and nothing kills you. But the vaults were never meant to save humanity. In order to do that, you have to make around 400,000 vaults all across the American. In reality, they only created 122. Each of the vaults was hidden well, was completely sheltered from other people, so we wouldn't have people trying to sneak in on their own, have giant riots trying to get into them. Each of the vaults was, like I said, it had different experimental psychological conditions on its inhabitants. The test ranges from being plausibly practical, something that's simple. Vault 13 was designed to keep its inhabitant isolated for far too long than necessary. So basically, Vault 13 was meant to keep the people sealed inside the vault longer than they needed to, while Vault 27 had twice the standard number of residents to study the effects of overcrowding. So basically they put 2,000 people in the vault so people were cramped and they would see what happened then. Now, there were ones that were made no sense at all. Vault 106 had psychoactive drugs released into the air 10 days after being sealed, which basically caused everyone to go crazy and kill each other probably. And while Vault 77 had one guy in there, or a girl, and a crate of puppets. Now, I don't know why they would do that. Like, it doesn't seem very practical that after a nuclear holocaust you're going to see, what did this guy do with the puppets? Right? Like, why would you think that? But I'm going off topic here. Let me continue. Of course, there were a few control vaults. Several of the vaults, Vault 3, Vault 8, and Vault 76, were all control vaults, which means nothing bad happened in them. But of the 122 vaults that were made, only 17 of them were control. So basically it's saying that the public was lied to. But even so, many vaults had the experiments derailed due to unexpected events. Now, if you played Fallout 1, you know Vault 13, which was the one that was supposed to keep you in isolation longer, was opened much earlier than expected due to a defective water chip. Basically, you were running out of water. If you know the game, then great. If you don't, you're running out of water and you had to go find a new one. So in the years following the Great War, the United States, presumably everywhere else, and presumably everywhere else in the world, I mean, that doesn't go into details because you can't really get in contact with Russia or China, but they think everyone's turned into a wasteland similar to the United States. It's simply called the Wasteland, or the Capital Wasteland in DC, or the Mojave Wasteland in Las Vegas. Virtually all the food and water is irradiated due to the fallout, and radiation exposure has caused mutation in nearly all forms of life. For example, the Yaogwai in Fallout 3, the geckos in Fallout New Vegas, the rat scorpions in almost every Fallout game. I hate those things so much. Which, with a large portion of the country's infrastructure in ruin, basic necessities are scarce. Of course, you can't just go down to the store and buy something. Number one, you don't have money. Number two, it's not going to be there. Barter is the most common method of exchange, which is kind of like people helping other people, which is something that will happen in a situation such as this. The basic form of currency is bottle caps, usually from bottles of Nuka-Cola or Sunset Sarsaparilla. Now, while people struggle to survive, there have been several groups that have risen above and that have continued to come back into the game again and again. Several of these groups are the Brotherhood of Steel, is a group dedicated to collection and preservation of pre-war knowledge and technology. The Brotherhood of Steel is a techno-religious organization. They worship technology. They think it is the best thing since, I don't know, Dandy Boy apples or whatever the hell those things are called. Now, that was a horrible joke. I'm sorry for wasting your time. And they can trace their roots back to the American military and government-sponsored scientific community. Basically, they trace the roots back to the people who worked on pre-war tech, the people who made the laser rifles, who made all that stuff, and they want to preserve it for themselves. Now, despite the good intentions, they don't want anyone else touching that. Like, it's my laser rifle, you can't touch it. No, I don't trust you with it because you are a savage. If you play Fallout 3, you go up to an outcast, you talk to them, they say something along the lines of, "Hey, local, shouldn't you be banging rocks together or something?" And I can't tell you how many times I just wanted to pull out a shotgun and just blast his head off, but I didn't. But still, it's a pretty bad attitude to have. Now, the main group of the Brotherhood of Steel that was an outcast in that one were actually more outcasts than the ones that were called outcasts, because they didn't decide not to go after technology and decided to help people, which isn't the Brotherhood's main goal. So if you think the Brotherhood of Steel are good guys, it's not technically the case. That's just a little bit of a tidbit of information for you there. The second group I want to talk about is the Enclave, which is remnants of the pre-war government. Basically, when everyone was hunkered down in vaults, these guys went to an offshore oil platform and hung out there for a while. They think that they're pure bloods because they think the radiation did nothing to them. So basically, they have all the pre-war tech that the government had, but they've even improved on some, notably their Tesla armor in Fallout 3, and the plasma weapons are all Enclave. The plasma weapons were prototyped before the war. Enclave fixed them up to make them battle ready after the war. the main goal that the Enclave feels is that they want to kill everything that's non-pure. Now, if you think about it, everything in the world is non-pure, because everything has been exposed to some amount of radiation, and everything has mutated in some way. And even if you don't count humans as that, you're going to kill all the food sources, you're going to kill everything, and then what is going to be left, and then the humans will eventually die out. So you can say Enclave are evil. They basically are. They were the main antagonist, or bad guys for you people who don't take English, for the second and third games. But in New Vegas, they completely vanished off the face of the map. There was a group of them, and there was a group of them somewhere. I can't remember off the top of my head where they were, but they were like old, and they didn't really fight you that much. Anyways, the third group is everyone's favorite assholes, the Raiders. Pretty sure they appear in every Fallout game. They want something, they see something they want, they take it by force. They don't care about other people, they care about themselves, and that's it. There's not too much else to say about them. The fourth is a country called the New California Republic, or the NCR, which is the biggest faction in post-apocalyptic America. They have the biggest military in the whole entire wasteland, and have the largest population. The NCR have also found out how to produce weapons and armor on their own. That's a pretty big power when you think about it. Being able to produce an unlimited supply of weapon and armor is essential for taking back the waste. Now, you might think the NCR are good guys, and I'm not gonna be mad at you for that if you do, because everyone's entitled to their own opinion. Such as you should not be mad at me for my opinion. I compare the NCR to like brainwashers. If you played New Vegas, you've seen the NCR come in and you've talked to the people, the first thing out of the people's mouth who live in New Vegas is, the damn NCR shouldn't have come here. We've been fine without them. Basically what the NCR did is, they saw New Vegas completely untouched by the atomic bombs. It's fine. There's nothing there. People are farming. People are doing good. NCR pushes its way in and says, this is NCR territory. You're going to live the way we want to. And they claim that they were helping them. But the thing is, they weren't really, because they were doing fine on their own to begin with. I mean, that doesn't make any logical sense. Anyways, there's a fifth group, and there's also a sixth, but the fifth group is the super mutants. Basically, they are former humans that have been mutated by the forced evolutionary virus, or the FEV virus. Now, what the FEV virus was originally designed to do was, it was designed to create super soldiers, make soldiers stronger, smarter, faster than the average soldier, give them an edge on the battlefield. But the thing is, something went wrong in the genetic coding, I guess. I'm not exactly sure because it doesn't go into details, but it makes them like brutes. Like, they're not smart. It basically destroys their brain, but it makes them wicked strong. And if you haven't played the game, believe me, they're not something you'll want to mess with unless you're really good at the game. Now, these are the 5 main ones that appear in almost every game. I want to talk about another one really quickly, because I don't like this group. I like the presence of this group, Caesar's Legion, or Caesar's Legion. The slave-driving Roman army style, the Caesar's Legion, is created by its leader Caesar. Holy crap, that's hard to say. Who conquered and united 86 tribes underneath him, and now plans to conquer New Vegas. Caesar believes that humans have to be the power. They can't rely on the machines. They can't rely on the stim packs, the drugs, the alcohol in order to be powerful. They have to rely on themselves. They have to be themselves. They shouldn't be using laser weapons. They should be using spears and machetes and rifles. Things like that. Things that are everything is man-made. I like his ideals. I like that part of his ideals. I don't like the part where he takes people in as slaves, slaughters innocent people, treats women like trash and like they're only baby factories, which is not only incredibly sexist, but it was extremely satisfying running through his camp chopping off people's heads off as a female character. I really enjoyed that. Anyways, that's about all I have to say for this episode. That's just a quick rundown of the entire thing. I hope it was informative, and I hope you guys liked it. If you did, comment, tell me a little bit about it, tell me what you want to hear in the next one. I'm going to be covering as many of the games as I can that I've actually played. And if you didn't like it, I'm really sorry I wasted your invaluable time. You don't have to send me a message saying I'm an idiot. You can just say I didn't like this part, and I'll try to fix it next time.